gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. I am your host, Jeremy Como. Thanks to everyone watching now and in the future. If you haven't subscribed already, what's wrong with you? Go ahead and click that subscribe button right now, especially if I know you. And if I don't, do it anyway. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell people you don't like to join the show. But before I introduce our illustrious guests here, let me go ahead and pay the bills. This show is brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. Go to chriskennedypublishing.com for all your literary needs. Fiction, they have some nonfiction, military, sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit of romance, Space Odyssey, you name it, they've got it. If you want to support this show as well as CKP, go to their Patreon. They have lots of goodies for you there, including CKP Confidential and other goodies. That is produced by our good buddy from Shark Flight Media, Ian Malone. Of course, you can go through their website, but you can also find Chris Kennedy Publishing on Amazon. Please follow and like and leave reviews, because that all matters, and it's very important. So check that out. And of course, you can catch up on news on Chris Kennedy Publishing on Facebook. The fan page is the factory floor for all the news and shenanigans. Check that out. And of course, if you've made it this far, you know we have a YouTube channel and you're on it. So congratulations. Tell your friends. Also, before, at Chris Kennedy Publishing, sign up for the newsletter. You might become a pre-reader. So not guaranteeing it, but it's a good chance. So if you want free stuff and a chance to be a part of the team, go there. All right. The bills are paid. And I'm going to have because we have a whole team of people here today, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'm going to call you out in no discerning order except from how I see you on the screen. And of course, ladies first, just because she happens to be on my far left here. Melissa, if you would, please introduce yourself, tell people where they can find you.
Hey, I'm Melissa Olthoff. I write sci-fi and fantasy with a dash of romance. You're welcome. You can find me at melissaolthoff.net, Facebook, and Amazon. And of course, I pretty much live on this YouTube channel now, as Jeremy mentioned earlier. So, yeah, happy to be here.
All right. The boss man of the anthology, Mr. Ibson. But hold on, let me find you.
That's my website, and I better read it off the screen to make sure I get it right.
All right, go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, I'm Jamie Ibson, and my website's ibsonwrites.ca. You'll find me my stuff listed there. I've got short stories that are available for free download, like a dozen of them at this point, and that's where Ibson Writes organizes cover art as well, and then basically social media. I'm on Facebook.
All right.
Yeah.
And don't forget to follow your favorite authors on Amazon, because that's a thing now. All right. Mr. Bridgwater, let me find you real quick. All right. Yep, I've got way too many of these. This is a bad idea.
It's confusing. There's so many.
All right, go ahead and say it and I'll find it.
All right. Well, my name's Dan Bridgwater. I write mostly science fiction and mostly short stories, although I have been working on a novel. As far as finding me online, there's my Facebook. And yeah, my name is really spelled that way. There is no E between bridge and water. It's a thing. But yeah, mostly military science fiction. I enjoy the heck out of it and had a great time writing this one. So looking forward to talking about it.
Awesome. All right. Shady, you're up.
Yeah, so I'm Dave Shadoin, otherwise known as Shady. You can see I'm at davidshadoin.com, which has both my Instagram and my Twitter, and also a link to my Amazon author accounts. It's following authors on Amazon is now a thing too. So check me out there. catch me at any of the cons, definitely come up say hi.
All right. And Mr. Steverson.
My name's Kevin Steverson. You can find me at kevinsteverson.com. Facebook, same way. I'm all over the place. Twitter, it's actually Call Me Cathead, which was an old military thing. Yeah, they called me Cathead. It happened. NCO Staff Sergeants call me Cat Stevens. Called the other guy Big Head. He mixed it all up, hollered at both of us. You know how it goes. Cathead.
I'm wondering, what rank is it okay to call you that? That's like, there's got to be a line.
I got people 20, 30 years ago calling me Cathead, so that's the way it goes.
You can do it at any rank so long as you run fast enough.
Yeah, that's it.
You know who I am?
Yeah.
No, perfect.
All right. Mr. Miller.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Miller. I'm pretty much a digital troglodyte, so I don't really have any way to find me. That friend of yours that knows a guy, ask him. But I'm an editor. I only have a couple short stories out so far. Edit some stuff for CKP and the Eldros Legacy. I'm one of the primary editors for them. That's about it.
All right. Well, welcome aboard. Thanks for being a writer now. All right. Let's see. Who we got? Miss
Moops.
Moops.
Oops.
Where are you, Moops? All right. Go ahead, Moops.
My name is Casey Moores. I'm also a science fiction fantasy writer, largely for CKP and the Four Horsemen universe. Got some stuff in the Fallen World, Salvage System. I write for Three Ravens as well in the JTF-13 universe, and I got a bunch of stories out in what I call with the new mythology and what I call my Death Mage Wars universe that I've been developing. You can find me. Amazon is really the best way, but you definitely have to click on no. I did not mean Casey Moore. I meant Casey Moores. I always emphasize that S is a lot more important than you'd think it would be. You can find me on Facebook under Casey Moores. You can find me on Instagram as Casey Moops. I think those are the big ones. Or, I'm sorry, my website, which is finally working again, caseymoores.net.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for coming on today. We are here to celebrate the brand new release of another anthology by CKP and number 5 of the We Dare anthologies. Awesome cover.
I love that cover so much.
All right. Well, since you talked about it, why don't you say something?
It's my character. I love her. I love her so much. Jamie is awesome. And our cover artist is amazing. He knocked that one out of the park.
So what is going on in this cover besides her standing over what looks like a dead robot body?
Kerrigan's just had enough of everybody's shit. That's what that's all about.
All right. So, what was the for this anthology when you made the request for stories, Jamie? What was the request? What were you looking for?
I wanted veterans, and I wanted veterans to write about veterans. We actually asked for this to be released on Memorial Day weekend too, because there's a whole theme here. Mm-hmm. I had noticed that a significant percentage of my friends list on Facebook were vets of one service or another, and there's something to be said for people who've been in the service and been there, done that, and you know, when we come up with these ideas for these We Dare anthologies, it's not me just like thinking real hard until I come up with something cool. Most of the ideas for the We Dare anthologies have well, in the last couple of years, at least since we started doing it, have come out of our Saturday night Zoom calls. And so we'll toss around phrases that will catch people's attention, themes that'll catch people's attention, you know, things that you can write, compelling stories where you're not shoehorned in, where there's a common theme, but it's broad enough that people can still write whatever it is they want, whatever it is they're good at. And so that was the instructions for this one was, you know, tell me a story about a vet after they've left service. Tell me about what they're doing with their life now that they're out. do they just want to be left alone? Because we all know that some of the most dangerous people are the ones who want to be left alone. And then and other ones, it's like the heroic last stand. It's you'll have to go through me, those kinds of things, right? So that was the idea. That was the pitch, and we had a lot of stellar submissions. Of the authors that contributed, we had 15 stories. I ended up soliciting for some vacancies when people had to bow out, and I got a bunch of open submission calls, and two of the stories that got included through that from Mike Jack Stombos and Nate Gibbons. They are not prior service. Everyone else is. But from reading your stories, you'd never know because they knocked it out of the park too. It was fantastic.
Awesome. All right, so now we're gonna talk to, and we're gonna come back to you, Jamie. But we're gonna talk to each individual author, and if you're comfortable with talking about your service, talk about your service, and then we'll talk about your story. And let's start with Moops. If you like to go first, sir.
Yes, please. Because I got to run in a few minutes, but. So, my military service, I was in the Air Force. I flew 20 years as a C-130 rescue and special operations pilot. That's really the long and short of it. Deployed all over the place. Been just about everywhere, done all the things. As I say in some of my bios, I did those things with those people in those places for a good portion of it. Some wonderful stories I'll talk about in 25 or 30 years or so. Some never, actually, but anyway. Did you want us to talk about the story in our service or just the, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, rolling into the story. Okay, apologies. My story was called Disability Claim. Any vet knows that is the first thing you do as soon as you get out, and then you get denied everything, no matter how much they broke you. A couple things trickle in here and there, but you have to ask for about 3 dozen, list all the different possible ailments, and a handful might get approved for a percentage of or whatever. But anyway, the story starts out, it's a sequel to Vocational Rehab from We Dare, Wanted Dead or Alive, in which my pilot veteran, witch doctor, has found himself unwittingly the driver for the crime queen of New Manchester. In this novel, in this story, starts out and he's working for her. He is reminiscing about things that have happened in the war. It starts off with a scene of going back to an incident where his wingman essentially got shot down. It was largely his fault for flying them into a trap. He then comes out of that remembrance, has a fight with his girlfriend from the first story, and then finds out that he still has to fly her to the music festival, the BDSM fest, the Bristol Dance Song and Music Fest. Drops her off there, gets a ping from an old buddy, Voodoo, who lost his legs because of the witch doctor's error. Calls him up and says, hey, we should get together and have a pint. So they meet up in, the Moisen Bint, get a pint, reminisce on old times. And then his buddy says, hey, we got to move on. Let's move on to the next place and give me a ride. While he's driving, he says, so obviously you owe me. We're going to pull up right there, and you're going to be the second wheelman in our thing we're doing right now. Kind of the same situation that was set up in Vocational Rehab, where he shows up to the situation, finds out that he has no time to think about it, and he's got to go do a thing. And now, because he owes his buddy, even though his priorities are at odds, and he knows that if he crashes this car or does something that highlights himself, the crime queen of New Manchester is not going to be none too pleased. But I think the section is called Unpayable Debt, because some debts that veterans have amongst each other are unpayable, but you still have to try. So once again, we go into a high-flying grab car chase. I won't spell out the details, but between Voodoo and Witch Doctor, they pull all the dirty tricks, and they set themselves up in ways that the young flyers can't keep up with.
So Jamie may have primed me for this before the show started. So was there anything from real life that that you put into this story or other stories besides, actually trying to get claims in? But
I definitely do that a lot in my writing. Thinking through this story, I think just some of the smaller details, some of the silly bureaucratic things that I threw in there, like, no, of course they haven't room-based or biometrics. That goes through like several different subcontractors and contractors. It's like a 12-year process. So small silly things, yes. Otherwise, no, I don't actually have any experience driving for the Crown Queen of New Manchester or driving grab cars.
But it's only been a little while since you retired, so I mean, there's time.
Also, that he'll admit to on camera.
Right.
I did. I did file for disability as soon as I got out, and I did use the vocational rehab programs that.
I don't know. I've heard you while you're driving through traffic. I'm pretty sure you could drive for a crime queen, no problem with that mouth.
I mean,
So sweet.
some of the verbology I might have.
Verbology.
The dialogue might have thrown out there. That might be realistic.
And for those of you who weren't watching last week, Casey just had a novel come out. So congratulations on that. A new Depic novel. And Marisa wanted me to fuss at you and tell you that you're saying Depic wrong.
Right.
So that's Companion to the Darkness. Go check out that episode. Check out the book. And Jamie, anything you wanted to add to that? You look like you were snickering a little bit.
No, we're good.
Okay, just checking.
Don't pretend like you're innocent in the comments, Marissa. We know.
Marissa's amazing. She's half the reason I'm snickering right now.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit talking in the comments.
Yeah.
All
Traditions
right.
to be maintained.
Yes. Speaking of the comments, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, and I'll get them asked. So Jamie, no.
Real quick, that said, I gotta get going. I actually have to go to work teaching the next generation all the things that I know. So
well, thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming in, man.
You guys take care. Actually, my student tonight is Chris Kennedy.
What?
I am Captain Christopher Kennedy is one of my students tonight. So
wow.
I'll say hi for everybody.
Bye, Moops.
All right, take care.
Bye.
All right. So next in line, Melissa, if you would tell us about your service and tell us about your story. And
Okay, so I was Air Force. I actually met Casey when I was a very, very young lieutenant when we were both stationed at Moody. For a while, I was in pilot training for about halfway through before I got medically DQ'd. Yay, disability claims and all that stuff, right? And then I spent the next 6 years as airfield ops. So I went from flying to being in charge of the airfield, air traffic controllers, whole 9 yards, and dealing with about 100 airmen, most of which were between 18 and 21 years old. So alcohol incidents were pretty much like what I dealt with while I was active duty. That was kind of my jam. So there are things I don't miss. But so when I wrote in We Dare 3 for Jamie, he gave me a week to come up with a story. And I'm all like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like, yes, I'm going to give you a story. Awesome. What the fuck am I going to write about? It was fine. I came up with something. I really loved my space pirates, but it was my third or fourth published short story. And I did not realize I should not have left them on a cliffhanger like that. Oops. So when Jamie asked me to write again for him, I wanted to go back. I wanted to go back to those characters and kind of finish their story. But I couldn't use my original main character because she was absolutely not a veteran or old at all. So I created Kerrigan, who is on that awesome cover, and decided that she was a retired mercenary and mostly best friends with the original main character's big brother. So she gets a distress call from Ash, and, well, she was bored. Y'all, she was so bored. And that right there, that was real life right there. Because when I got out of the Air Force, we decided we were going to go someplace quiet and calm. We had a farm. I was so freaking bored. So that was absolutely some real life stuff that I put in that story because the silence is not all it's cracked up to be. Yeah, I might not have gone down to the local bar and caused trouble like Kerrigan did, but I wanted to. So, she goes off. She causes trouble. She causes a lot of trouble and has fun doing it. And eventually, she finds the characters from the original story, the Relentless, and things get resolved. All sorts of things.
Yes. Your homie Hardys.
I will admit that my space pirates in this particular setting are not like scary hardcore space pirates. They're more like along the lines of the sky pirates from Tailspin. Okay, so it's not super serious stuff. It's just fun. But it was a blast.
Speaking of pirates, you have something coming out not too long from now. You wanna talk about that while we got you on?
Absolutely. Space Hyena World Domination is totally happening. So Nick Steverson and I created Space Hyenas, which is basically like Firefly and Goonies and Indiana Jones meets, the salvage title universe with office workers that are Space Hyenas. And I have props because I am, like I said, I live on the show. So I've got the first one here, Hunters and Hijinks, which is so much fun. Right now, y'all, it's still hanging out at number 3 on the new release chart, which I've never had a book hang out that high for that long. So it's really, really freaking cool. And we've got book 2, Pirates and Payback, coming out on June 2nd. And
nice.
Maya just finished reading it, and I think she liked it. So it's pretty cool.
And because she hasn't been on the show enough, her and Nick are going to be on the show to launch that book as well. So join us June 2nd.
I live here now. And then the third one comes out in July. So it's a rapid release trilogy.
Nice.
But why is the rum gone? The rum, I know why the rum is gone, because that rat bastard Reggie, that's where the rum is gone.
Yeah. Marissa saying hyenas in space makes me think that Hyenas in Space needs to be a Muppets production.
Yes, it does. It would totally be an awesome Muppets production.
We have one human character, and the rest of them are all Muppets.
And there's also Oops Moops is a character in that, and I have no idea why we torture Oops Moops so much. It's so weird. Karma. That bastard should have made me old and fat in 4 Horsemen.
Oh, I can't. I think I lost the image that Nick made of you for that promo.
Dude, I will kill you. I know where you live. More to the point, I know your wife.
Yeah.
Do not mess with me.
I almost put it in the promo. I was this close. But anyway.
Oh, dude, no.
Oh, Mid-Journey is fun. Anyway.
Mid-Journey is fun.
So next, is that everything on your story?
I can stop talking now. Yes.
Okay, just checking. All right, next is Jamie. Let's talk about your story. Well, your service and then your story.
Okay, so I joined the Canadian Army when I was still in high school. I joined as a reservist. Played infantry guy on evenings and weekends for grade 12 and 13. And then when I graduated, went off to Bosnia for 6 months as a peacekeeper. 3 weeks from the end of the tour, 9/11 happened, and the whole tone of the entire thing changed. We went from T-shirts and floppy hats to body armor and machine guns in about a half an hour. And we were lamenting the Van Du's, the French troops who were going to be coming in to replace us afterwards. They're going to be in for a rough go. And then after that, I went back to my reserve unit and hung out for a couple of years until I moved out west chasing a job with the police. So I still know how to strip and assemble a machine gun. Still know how to march. Had a lot of fun with that when I was running a program with the RCMP for high school kids. Taught them how to march and do drill and stuff. And yeah, so none of that turns up in my story at all. it's a shame that Casey's gone, but because when we wrote Unshackled together, we created this in-universe media personality, Buff Orpington. And that was thanks to an idea that Kathy Smith had on Facebook, where she said, it's a shame that the name Buff Orpington is a breed of chicken and not some cheesy 80s action movie hero. And Casey and I were like, well, we can do something about that. And so in Four Horsemen, Buff Orpington is the fictionalized ridiculousness of taking these other stories and these adventures that all happened inside 4HU and turn them into a larger than life action movie, James Bond-esque kind of thing, where the same dude's having all the same insane adventures, and every one of the titles is like Buff Orpington and the epic sounding now, right? So we talked about it, and it's turned up in other properties. I think Chris said that he mentioned Buff Orpington in his Uplink Squadron books. I seem to remember somebody saying that he's been referenced in Salvage, but I could be wrong.
Nope, we put him in Salvage.
Okay, very good.
Luke was a huge fan.
We haven't actually written any Buff Orpington stories, so I had to address that. And this time, Buff Orpington is undercover because he's actually Orf Buffington. And so my story, I wrote it with Jason Cordova. Jason had written 2 stories in 2 of my other anthologies about Quintus Fox, who's this notorious badass bounty hunter type. And in the first story, he comes across this ghost that's haunting a space station. It turns out that it's a Jaxian quantum wolf that can phase through walls, and it eats people when it's hungry. And Quintus gets hired to deal with it. And after he kills, oh my God. So Ian Cognito, who's chatting there, that's my buddy Jason, who I play D&D with, and he's actually done up a Buff Orpington shirt for me. Glad to see you made it, Jay. So Quintus kills the wolf and finds out the wolf had puppies, and Quintus ends up taking custody of the puppies. And in the story, he's talking about how, if the Royal Jaxian game wardens ever find out that I've got these wolves, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So Orf is a Royal Jaxian game warden, and he's going after Quintus and looking to get the wolf pups back and put Quintus in jail. And I wrote my story, and then it basically ends after a brawl at a regimental dinner between the light armored Cav Scout guys who scrapped with the heavy armor guys. And it turns out that Quintus belonged to the heavy armor, while Orf was a Cav Scout. So they scrap, and then Jason's story takes over. And the 2 of them end up working together after that to go after the actual bad guys. But that was the first time I've had a chance to actually write a Buff Orpington story, and it was a lot of fun. It's meant to be lighthearted and ridiculous. There's the brawl begins with a cheesecake food fight at the regimental dinner. Shenanigans and snark, and we really kind of wanted to go for the buddy cop argumentative partnership kind of thing when they actually start working together, and it was a lot of fun. If there's more Buff Orpington stories to come, it will probably be his memoirs as written by Buff Orpington, because there's no way I'm putting my name on that cover.
So I might have missed it. Was there any real lifeness?
No,
absolutely
not.
Nope.
Wait, you're not Buff Orpington?
No.
So sad.
Well,
it's a good story though.
I had to type this to our buddy Nick because he sent me the promo image for Melissa. Anyway, you're welcome. Thank you.
So in other news, I am in the market for a new co-author, and Marissa's going to be in the market for a new husband because you're dead.
That was
we just got to get that to J. Caleb so he can start putting in the jackets. But anyhow.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it, Space Dad.
Bio photo.
Please and thank you.
Wow.
That could be a great promotional bookmark. You could just hand them out to hundreds of people.
Oh, you
Little
just made the
QR
list,
code.
buddy.
The resemblance was absolutely uncanny.
I'm in a chat room with a bunch of dead people.
Yeah, you are. You fear nothing but Jolie.
Well, she knows where he sleeps. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so Jamie, was there anything else you wanted to add to your story, or?
No, not to do with mine. If we have time after we've gone through everybody and we want to talk about the other stories in the anthology, I'd be happy to read that, but we don't need to at this point. Oh dear.
That was Marissa exacting revenge.
You better.
From Marissa.
Yeah.
Love you.
Okay. Shenanigans. That's why we do this.
Shenanigans. Why we're here.
Right.
Yeah.
Shenanigans.
All right, Mr. Bridgewater.
Sir.
Your name sounds very New England, and that's how my wife, Marissa, says your name because she's from there. Are you from New England?
No, but there is a Bridgwater, England, spelled exactly like that. So we have to assume that we were kicked out of that area. So,
all right. Well, you're up next. Tell us about your service. Tell us about your book.
Well, I grew up an Army brat and joined the Marine Corps, much to my father's stunned amazement. But I was in from about 92 to 97. Commissioned in 92. I was a officer, and if you look back at the history for the Marine Corps, 92 to 97 was pretty slow. So there's not a whole lot of explodey, zinging bullets that in my background that informs my writing. Hopefully, what I do get out of it is we had a lot of combat veterans. It was right after the first Iraq run. And so you could see the relationships, I think, between the combat veterans and the way that they spoke to each other, the way that they interacted, the morbid gallows humor, and the finding of family in places that you don't expect it. You always find these people that just bond, and that's something that I think you see more. You see that some in the civilian world, but the military, you see that quite a bit. And I hope that's what I can try to put into my story is some of the dialogue, some of the relationships. The story I wrote for Jamie here was probably more informed by the A-Team than my own personal veteran experience. But the lead, Wally, that he struck me as someone who just couldn't help being a trainer on top of everything else. And some of the stuff I ended up having to cut for length was him training the juniors, as he often does. But the gist of the story is an old Marine out of service, happy out of the service, but he's got a bar. He's got a bar that he loves, and he goes to, not as the owner, but as just, it's a place he goes to unwind, and bad people come and try to take it from him. And he calls in the title is Calling in a Favor, and he does. He's got friends. He brings in a few. They're still wildly outnumbered, which is where the A-Team jury rigging of everything that they can comes in to whittle down the numbers and see what happens. Lots of explosions, lots of fun stuff. So hopefully it's a fun read. One of the early readers did send me an email that said he liked it and he did get the A-Team vibe. So
yeah,
we all
there's a disparity of numbers and excellence versus uneducated morons, and that comes across beautifully.
It is very helpful if the masses, the cannon fodder of your opponent are stupid. It does make things, you can channel that violence into a productive and hopefully believable set of circumstance. So it was a good time, though. I enjoyed writing it. Like a lot of the stuff that I do have, a lot of the short stories especially, it seems easy to track your start, your middle, your end of your arc. And sometimes it just seems like you've got the story complete in your head. You just have to get it on the paper. So it was a lot of fun, though. I enjoyed it greatly.
Awesome. Shady, you're up next.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm a currently 11-year active duty military guy in the Air Force. Flew helicopters for 9 of those 11 years now, and currently teaching cadets here at the Air Force Academy how to fly. It's been a interesting job, to say the least. Yeah, so the story I ended up writing, Dance of the Silvered, was a little bit of a kind of a way to capture sort of the lightheartedness of the crews I was used to working with, and being able to like talk about the different pieces of a crew that make a mission come together, but at the same time, bringing up some of the darker sides of, PTSD, a little bit addiction, that comes from just the kind of stress and strain that your body gets put through. So in my story in particular, it's based around kind of these giant mechs that I've called dreadnoughts. And the addiction there is more of a techno kind of buzz from being plugged into the mechs for too long. But other than that, my two characters have been best friends forever, best friends since their military service days. And it's the mechanic and the pilot, and they both had been tracking the fact that their compatriots have been dying off. And you find out a little bit of kind of the backstory, their kind of last major mission together, and as well as what's been happening to each person. And, hopefully there's enough there that everybody really enjoys one of the suspense, and it's not too heavy for all of you out there. But at the same time, you get kind of a real feel of what some of our military members end up going through, and maybe to an exaggerated extreme, but still a little bit of a nice kind of dose of reality too.
Well, so it sounds like there's some real life influence on the story. Is there anything in particular from life besides pilots and military?
In my lifetime, I mean, so I do have like one particular draw. I've known plenty of people with addiction issues, and so that's where a little bit of that draw came from. And that's really like pulling on that string, and and a little bit it's funny. I'm kind of walking down another path. Casey Azell and I are currently writing kind of a darker side of humanity, talking about trafficking in the novel that we're writing. So I was already in that mental mood when I got asked or got approached to kind of do this. And it was like, all right, what else can I do? What else can I throw at the audience and make them kind of really feel where these characters are coming from? And hopefully I've done that with Dance of the Silvered.
So you're just determined to make people cry, is what I'm hearing. Sometimes.
Hopefully you'll laugh as well. If you laugh, cry at the same time, I've done my job as best I can.
Both is good.
Yeah, both is good. One of the things that struck me with your story, Shady, is that they are a team, right? Like everybody has a role, even though there's just one dude who drives the mech. He has these supports, and they all, are puzzle pieces that socket together, and you don't see a lot, like in a lot of military sci-fi that I've read, the focus is on the guy pulling the trigger, and what must be the essential crew that builds up the intel, that does the weapons loadout, that provides the on-site support, that does the repairs, the mechanic guy, the wrench turners, all of those guys. There must be an army of them behind every one of those mech drivers, and they don't get much screen time. And I really like that about your story. especially as the whodunit mystery starts to build, and each of the different support members from the crew have their own piece to it. I thought that was really well done.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean that's a little bit too, and I noticed Casey's jumped into the chat, so
Hey,
she can kind
Casey.
of back me up on this a little bit. But you know, we were both used to working with crews a lot, and so it's one of those things like, you know, almost Pirates of the Caribbean, part of the crew, part of the ship kind of thing, you know. And that's where we like to go, and it's been my experience so far in my Air Force career, so it was a real easy thing to draw from.
All right, well, thank you, Matt. Well, so Shady's relatively new to CKP, and so is our next author, Mr. Miller.
Hey,
If you would, talk about your service and talk about your story.
sure. I started talking to a recruiter pretty much right after 9/11, just because of, you know, whatever, patriotism, who knows? It was a long time ago. I served from 2003 to 2010. I was pretty much in the 100. Oh, I was in the 101st the whole time. I never switched units, which is rare for that length of time. I was in cavalry. I mostly served as a battle NCO, a year in Iraq, 15 months in Afghanistan. And that's about it. And so it was just like one thing throughout there. I basically ran a command center for an aviation unit is kind of what I did. So this story, Jamie posted on Discord that there was an opening, and I just was like, I got to get in that. So I worked on this really weird, complicated story about a veteran trying to use AI in some mission, and it just was going nowhere. And I, like, the night before it was due, I scrapped the whole thing and wrote this other story. So wrote kind of a simple story, and it was kind of, I guess, after thinking about it, it was kind of more personal anyways, which is better story. So sure, Casey, I'll be your friend. But this story is about some space miners in a mining colony, and their community gets attacked by some pirates and kind of held up and held hostage. And they have to decide what they're going to do about it. They've got a history that the people around them don't know about, and, you know, gunfights and space fights ensue.
This is how Casey makes friends. She goes, "You want to be friends? Yeah, friends."
Like, yes.
So, and that's about that's kind of what it is. It's just one encompass story. I don't know. I've never really had to describe my stories. The personal side of it, I guess, is the title comes from Edward Gibbon describing the fall of Rome, and it's also has to do with like orbital decay. It's kind of a pun, but kind of what the idea is. What do you do after you're out, and how do you balance what is a just war? What do you do when the people around you don't think you're, and you might even question things yourself about, you know, what's right and wrong, as far as one of the worst things that we can do to each other, which is engage in warfare. So that's basically my character's struggle with that. So trying to be civilians, but having things in their past that they have to deal with. So that's about it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And now we have the OG, Space Dad himself,
Space Dad,
Kevin Steverson. So, Kevin, tell us about your military service and your story.
So, gosh, I started off in the 80s, active duty in the Army, started off in the infantry. So for I can guarantee you, because I was there in the 80s, there's no such thing as the E4 Mafia. So that's not a thing. So everybody just go ahead and forget that right now. Never. No such thing. Okay. Just letting y'all know that right now. Had a break in service and came back in and was active duty in the National Guard for the next 12 years. But yeah, I spent from the 80s all the way until I retired here in 2017 was pretty much military. So a lot of that's involved. And yeah, I am the old guy. And speaking of old guys, my story is about Rento, who is like a father figure to Harmon and Clip there in the salvage universe. And he owned the salvage yard where they started out working. You know, he had been injured in the service and you know, lost an arm and part of a lung and that kind of thing. Got the nanite treatment and he got the expensive one because he had a little credit at the time. And so he's got that stuff that lasts 50 years. So he might be in his 90s, but he feels like he's in his 60s. So, you know, he thinks he's a young guy. But you just don't mess around with somebody in their 90s, livelihood and business. And that's what happens in this story. And once that happened, those guys are ruthless. And for them to get revenge, it's complete and total revenge. And that's what he does. And of course, you know, like all my short stories, I try to put a twist in there that you may not see coming. And so, you know, he puts together a plan and things are going the way it's supposed to go. And the reader's reading it. And it's not really going like it's supposed to go. I mean, it's not. But, you know, I don't want to give too many spoilers away on the story. But there are characters from Salvage that you know and love. And they may come in, they may not. There are so many Salvage characters after 21 books that, you know, I can't give away who it is. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's Rento and he's not playing. So, I mean, if you guys, you know, want to get an image of him, he looks like Sam Elliott these days. So, yeah. Gruff voice, talks like him a little bit. Yeah, he's not playing. And what I brought to it from the military, some of it from the military, some of it from, you know, from what I fought when I was younger and that kind of thing. And so, you know, combatives and that kind of thing. So, and there is some combatives in it. I don't want to give too many details away. I don't want to, you know, detail the fights and that kind of thing. I mean, my God. If you guys ever get a chance, you know, there's a friend of ours, Don Nicholson, and he's written a story in Salvage Title. They call him Big Nick. If you ever see him at a con, ever get a chance to sit down with him, I won't tell you fighting stories. Just ask him because he relishes sitting down and talking about it. So you guys can go from there.
Awesome.
But yeah, I don't want to give too much of the story away.
No, it sounds great. So, Jamie, anything to add about the collection of stories, or any one story, or?
I do want to give a bit of a shout out to an author that I don't think many CKP readers are going to be familiar with, and it's the last one in the anthology by a guy named Nate Givens. It's the first time I've ever included a story that was first person present tense. I know that our publisher does not care in general for first person present tense. Mm-hmm. It is a very difficult way to write well. Most of the time, third person limited past tense is the way to tell a story. And so I was kind of rolling the dice on this one, but I thought the story was powerful enough that it belonged in the anthology, and I thought that Chris would agree. So so the story is the narrator isn't even human, and so I was reading the story, and it's from the perspective of an artificial intelligence driven military service dog, right? So it's like a robot with an AI on board, and they're in trouble because you're not supposed to have actually sentient AIs in robots, and they're not sure how it happened, but the intelligence that was driving the robot achieved sentience, and that's kind of a problem. And so they were being accused by some person in authority of having been war criminals from the fight that they engaged in during the war years before. But they've hung up that side of them and gotten into search and rescue, basically space search and rescue. And they've continued to work as partners. And then as they're getting dressed down by this goon, they get an emergency call, and they have to go get in the rocket and go blasting off to go carry out this rescue. And I'm reading the story, and it gets to almost the end of the story, and I just get like this, oh no, moment, right, where like your heart like seizes in your chest because you can see it coming, but I was wrong, because there was a twist, and the twist just like, all right, got up, like walked away from my desk, and like went looking for the ninjas that snuck the onions into my office and all this kind of thing. And I got to edit this story, right? And it was emotional, and it was difficult, but it was so well done. And so I wanted to include it, and I send it in, and then put the manuscript together. All the stories are tuned up. They're all great. I sent them off to Chris for his review, and he reads everything that he's going to publish. And so I knew when he'd finished reading, because what he wrote in the message was, Chris, there is no way I'm going to let a first-person present tense be the last story in this anthology. Also, Chris, oh my God, this is the perfect story to end this anthology on.
That's amazing.
Oh, right? Huh. Okay, we're good. So it was tremendous. And I was really pleased to get that story from Nate. I had never met or spoken to Nate before. I believe he found the submission through the Writer Dojo, which is one of the Facebook groups that I belong to. And it was really, really good. So although he's not on with us tonight, you should totally look up Nate's stuff. I believe he's published one novel in the Galaxy's Edge setting, and he's written another one that got published by Ethon Books. And keep an eye out for him, because he's good. So, yeah.
He's in the chat, Jamie. You've been making his head explode.
No, I just saw that. Yeah. So, well done. That was awesome. Keep up the good work.
Awesome, mate.
And we had so many other great stories mixed in as well. It's a shame that we can't do this like twice as long and have everybody on board to talk about the stuff that they've written, because they're all fantastic stories. And I'm so pleased with how the anthology came together. This is the last one. This is the 5th We Dare, and we're not going to do any more. I'll do another anthology at some point somewhere. But we're, in my defense, I've never written another story in first person present. Well, you did a great job. So yeah, it's a lot of fun doing these anthologies. And when I got started writing them, it started because I asked Tris, hey, do you have like plans to do a non-Four Horsemen military sci-fi setting agnostic kind of an anthology? And at that point I'd written like 2 stories, maybe 3. I'd never written a novel. And Chris's response was, well, I didn't have any plans to do one, but you could do one. What? Panic. Total panic. And that was on Friday. And by Monday I was like, you idiot. Of course you have to say yes. So I did. And here we are 5 years later, and a fantastic collection of stories put together by a ton of really talented people. It's been a lot of fun this whole way along. So, thank you guys for putting together such awesome stories and stuff. Made my job fun. It was great.
And speaking of the 4 previous We Dare, here are the covers.
There they are.
Go find them on Amazon or on CKP.com. And of course, the current book, We Dare 5. And I put the link to buy the book in the comments. It's also in the show notes. And you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'm going to put it at the end of the comments as well. If I can figure out the right freaking button. All right. And there
one of the
go.
fun things too about doing all of these anthologies is that there is continuity between some of the stories in them, right? Like Melissa, your story with the Relentless was in We Dare 3, No Man's Land, and then we carried it on here. Some of my stories carried over between books. Not that Rinto appeared in Kevin's submission for the first We Dare, but the first story that you did for the first We Dare was a salvage story. It was Taming the Beast, right? That was about the gunny who had the bionics, who was having trouble beating his mandatory minimum obstacle course. And he had to be able to pass it in order to lead the troops and that kind of thing. Casey and Josh did 2 braided stories in the first We Dare about Carrie and Gage, a couple of cyberpunk contractors who were hired to steal the same pay data on the same night from the same mega corporation and the mischief they got into. And then they showed up again in We Dare 3. Moops's story from Old Age and Treachery, that character started in Wanted Dead or Alive. So there is benefit to reading them and reading them in order, because you will pick up the same characters along the way when they pop up. And that's been a lot of fun too, I really enjoy the short story format. I know, novels are the place to be for most things, but I like the short story format because you really have to strip the story down to the bare bones, and you need to hook the reader right off the bat. Here's your character. Here's the issue. Here's the problem. Here's the difficulty they got to overcome. You got to get to know them real fast, and you've only got 10,000 words or less to tell that story.
Raise your hand if you've gone over the word count every time.
Yes, everyone, right? Like, it's hard to write good short stories because of the word limit, right? In a novel, you can just go.
Pretty much why my ending's so abrupt.
Yeah, raise your
words.
Raise your hand if you were able to reference your other short stories in other short stories.
Yes, and that was the other trickiness that you did was referencing the ounces a day from We Dare 2 because We Dare 2 apparently has made the rounds and people are reading it in other universes. It's been fun to see that kind of shenanigans going on. So yeah, it's good. I like it a lot.
That's all. Well, congratulations. It sounds like an awesome anthology, and everybody go out and buy it now if you haven't already. And if you have, buy another copy. I don't give a shit.
This is why we love you, Jeremy.
My kind of advertising. Love it.
Yeah. And before I do my closing ads, I want you guys to go ahead and promote whatever you want to promote, and we're going to go in reverse order. I'm not going hunting for websites again because that took too long. So Space Dad, we're going to start with you since we ended with you. If you would.
I love that it's canon now. He's now Space Dad.
Tell us where people can find you, both online and the wild, and what you got coming up.
You can find me kevinsteverson.com. And listen, I was just in this incredible anthology that came out today. You need to run out and get it. Just look me up on Amazon. You'll see it. It's a We Dare 5. What else is going on? Something that's not completely related. Tyler Ackerman, who's co-written some of my fantasy books, and he was one of the front men for Cypress Spring. He put out a 5-song EP, and it's just hit everywhere. You can get it on Spotify or whatever. And I co-wrote 4 of those songs, maybe even 5. I need to check that 5th one, but I co-wrote 4 of those songs, so it's kind of different. And I've referenced some of those songs in the Salvage books. Several of them have been. So you can hear it, and there it is. So that's out there. Just look up Tyler Ackerman on Spotify. Or heck, look me up on Spotify. You'll find me on there. So
awesome. Mr. Miller.
I guess find me if you need something edited. Actually, we got from the Eldros Legacy. The last book I edited is called Stone Whisper by H.Y. Gregor. That should be coming out in a couple of weeks, and it is so good.
Amazing.
It's even though we got like 10 books, you can jump in on this one. It's all new characters. It's all new everything. And it's a great jumping on point. It's one of the best fantasy books I've read in a long time. H.Y. Gregor, Haley.
Upset about that one. I heard you were a little upset that you didn't have more work to do on that one.
I was, yeah. And I was offended that it was her first published novel. So, yeah. H.Y. Gregor, Stone Whisperer, or just check out Eldros Legacy. Just Google it and find us there. And we're trying to get some fantasy fans to join us.
And Kevin, are you going to any conventions? Did you say?
Yeah, I'll be at LibertyCon. It's shortly after we close on a new house / farm, but we close on the 8th, so I'll be at LibertyCon shortly after that, and then I'll be at Imaginarium in July, and then it's the Factory Con in the fall. So That's what's going on right now.
Awesome. Oh, and congratulations! I know you've been hunting for that land for a while now.
Yeah, we only went with 5 acres instead of getting the big plot of land, because that's cool now, but 15 years from now, who wants to take care of 80 acres, 100 acres? I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, I got to use my head here.
Yeah,
we'll just go with 5. So
sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Jonathan, are we going to be able to see you in the wild anywhere, or are you just online?
Yeah, I am not really anywhere. So I'm on Facebook, which everybody that you know knows me. So just search for me. So.
All right, we'll get you out in the wild someday.
We'll get you out to a convention sooner or later.
Yeah. All right, Shady, you're up. Where can people see you online and in the wild, and what you got coming up?
I mean, you saw the post earlier online, and that's pretty much where you can find me. Although I do have an episode of Last Call coming out sometime shortly. I think those have started up. Mm-hmm. Which we had I think that was Nick Steverson and Kevin Eikenberry and I, and then Marisa, and that was a blast to record. I know we had a lot of fun. See what else. I'm going to be out at Liberty Con, Dragon Con, probably Factory Con. So if you see me walking around, feel free to come up, say hi. I'll try not to pretend like I don't know what you're talking about and walk away. No. Usually I'll give you at least a crisp high five. And then let's see, I may or may not have another short story coming out here soonish.
Yeah, you do.
As a part of the Phoenix Initiative. We'll see what the factory boss says.
You're golden. It's great. I love it.
So that'll be coming around, and then like I talked about earlier, Casey Zell and I have a book in the works. I may have up to 3 novels in the works for the next 2 years. We'll see. I kind of keep getting tagged with things, and I'm just trying to find ways to make them come out for everybody. So.
And Shady's first appearance on our channel was basically talking about Casey Zell and the peer pressure that she applies on people in order to make them authors.
Yep, and it's real. Definitely go back and find those. Hey, so I've got this idea. It's all right, Casey. You know I'm not going to say no. What is it?
Marisa can hay too.
Yeah. Well, and catch the first part of that episode on our channel and the second part of that episode on Casey's Writer Life channel, and I'll show you how to get there in a little bit. Mr. Bridgwater.
Sir.
Where can people find you?
Well, my social media empire is an Amazon author page and a Facebook page, apparently. Who knew I was a Luddite? But I've got several short stories. Well, I've got 3 other short stories in CKP. I've got one that I've got a commitment to for 3 Ravens that hopefully will be out this fall, and then another CKP that's going to be out in early next year, I believe. So those are coming up. A horror one for 3 Ravens, which is going to be interesting, and a Peacemaker Bureau 42 anthology coming up in the next winter time frame. So that's going to be good times.
All right. Are you going to any conventions or anything?
About the only thing I know that I'm going to be attending is in February of next year is Superstars of Writing, which is held in Colorado Springs. It is less a convention and more of a conference, sort of. A lot of professional writers come up and they talk about both the art and the business sides of the house. And it's very instructional. It is built along the lines of compressed classes, I think, is a
fire
good way
hose.
To drink from the fire hose. Yes. Ike's usually there, Eikenberry, and I tell you what, it's standing room only for his classes when he starts talking about character arcs, villain arcs, which is a good villain. Oh, we love that class. We have to take it about 8 more times. And that's about it, though. I'm a homebody, so.
Are we going to see you at Factory Con again this year?
Probably not. I've got my day job is starting to spin up. As a matter of fact, you might be seeing me in an airport on the way to somewhere else here in the next couple of weeks. So,
Thank you, sir. All right, and Jamie, where can we see you in the wild and online, and what you got coming up?
Look for me on Facebook primarily. In real life, we are my wife Michelle and I are going to be at LibertyCon in June. We haven't been able to attend since 2019, so we'll be thrilled to be there and see everybody again because it's been way too long.
Because the borders were closed.
Other works. Last fall, I released my fantasy novel A Murder of Wolves, edited by the amazing Jonathan Miller. Do you mind if I share that personal experience that you had from the Army that I
that's fine.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
So in the novel, this shaman from the Sukari Ma, these anthropomorphic coyotes, he's been captured by the evil humans and is being tortured for information in this fortress. And I had to think about, like, well, he's got to be alive, so we can't do like racking and the other horrific medieval tortures that existed back in the day. What if they waterboarded him? So I'm writing this sequence where Karaklin's being waterboarded, and then I get my editing notes back from Jonathan, and he's like, "Hey, so about this scene, if you want to talk about waterboarding, I got waterboarded in training as part of my thing in the military. So if you'd like some real world experience, I can help you with that." I was just like, "Excuse me, you what?" and yeah, we talked, and it was shockingly helpful. But that was not the feedback I was expecting from my editor whatsoever. But it was fantastic, and a bit of an eye opener for me.
They say never volunteer for stuff once you're in the military, but I'm like, I already volunteered once, so I just always said yes to everything, which was a mistake usually. But
you would have been everybody's hero, though. Yeah, let him volunteer.
Yeah.
Good.
He's like, "Oh, waterboarding, I've done that." Yeah,
Grenades jumped on this month. So A Murder of Wolves came out last October, and I'm working on number 2 right now.
Awesome. And last but not least, Melissa Olthoff. Tell us where we can see you in the wild and online, and what do you have to promote?
All right, so you can find me at melissaolthoff.net. If it looks suspiciously familiar, it's because I copied Marisa Wolf's website and homework because, why reinvent the wheel? I have Space Hyena World Domination ongoing. So June 2nd, Pirates and Payback comes out, and then in July, Privateers and Pandemonium will release. And I cannot wait to see that cover. As far as where to find me in the wild, like a lot of us, I will be at LibertyCon, and I will be at Imaginarium with Kevin and Nick Steverson, because both Nick and I are up for a Best Sci-Fi Novel of the Year award, which is so cool. And if he wins, it's because of me. Why? Because I told him about it. That's right. Me. So either way, I win. And if we both lose, it's fine. We'll go just, get some mochas or something. I'm also up for 2 short stories, Fallen World and Valkyries, which really, I love them both. But if I could pick one, Valkyries would be awesome if I won that one. Outside of that, I will hopefully be at DragonCon, all dependent on my amazing husband's schedule, as always. And then definitely will be at FactoryCon, because that's our new favorite vacation. Other than that, I'll probably be on this channel like 3 more times this year. At least.
Probably more than that. And speaking of, we have some new shows that are have already debuted on the channel, and we're going to continue going with them. And Melissa's on most of them. Let's see. One that she's not on is Future Books, which comes out once a month, produced by our good buddy Ian Malone at Shark Flight Media.
I've been on that one.
Yeah, you probably are on that one. Hosted by Randall Willis. It's a great show. If you want to know what's coming out for CKP, you can catch it here on the CKP YouTube channel and anywhere that you catch your podcast. It is an audio podcast. so no video on that one. We have had our inaugural Feral Ladies of CKP episode last week or the week before. And we're going to be putting those out about once a month. And those are co-hosted by Marisa Wolf, Melissa Olthoff, and Casey Ezel. And we will have other guests on there, predominantly female authors with some token dudes from time to time. And we had our debut of CKP Last Call, which again Melissa was on, and she just likes being on TV. I don't know what it is, and
I have fun.
Yeah, and it was a good time. We basically that is people who want to drink, and those who are high on life just come in and have a good time and pitch ideas, talk mad shit, and they're pitching ideas for either pitching a book they've already written, they're currently writing, or something they would like to write, and then all the conversations that happen in between, and it got sexual on the first one, so.
It wasn't my fault. It was not my fault.
You encouraged it. You were talking about foreplay, so there you go.
It was Bill's fault.
And
1000%.
Yeah, and like Shady said, he is on the next one, which will be coming out next week, I believe. And I'll shoot y'all some notices on that. And I heard it. I haven't edited it yet, but I heard it, and it was just a lot of drinking stories. So it's a good time. So check them out. I'm glad we're doing this show. That's going to come out about once a month. Well, it's going to come out about every other week for now, leading up to LibertyCon, and then hopefully we're going to do a live last call at LibertyCon, and so that should be crazy. All right, and I think that's all that I have for that. And just to continue to pay the bills, go to Chris Kennedy Publishing for all your literary needs, and I keep on forgetting. They have merch, so go there, buy some T-shirts. I think this is my Deutschland CKP. Yes, we're in Germany.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about CKPI?
Actually, it's pretty neat because we are getting ready to hit our 200th book that's been translated through CKPI coming up. Nice. Of course, the vast majority of those are CKP books. There are some other outside publishers that were doing some of their stuff too, but yeah, the 200th is coming out, and we're in Germany, France. Got some books in Spanish, but right now, German and France is really kicking it off. So,
and of course, if you want to support this channel and CKP, go to their Patreon, sign up for that. All kinds of cool stuff there. And you can find them on Amazon, but you can also just go through the website and get all your books there. Don't forget about Facebook, the factory floor. But I say this every show: if you're counting on Facebook or social media to get all your news, you're gonna miss something. Sign up for your favorite authors' newsletters. If they have a newsletter, sign up for it. Follow them on Amazon. Follow them on social media. Sign up for a Chris Kennedy Publishing newsletter. You will not be disappointed, and you get free stuff. And so you can't beat that. You get great free short stories, typically, sometimes a novel if somebody's crazy. But do that. Support your authors and support this channel. And of course, let's see. We have our associated YouTube channels. Of course, if you've made it this far, you know this YouTube channel, Chris Kennedy Publishing. We've got a little bit of nepotism, my wife's YouTube channel, which I swear we're going to get going here soon, but go ahead and subscribe for that one. Of course, Casey Ezel, Writer Life. We partner with her from time to time, but she's got great content on there. A lot of solo vlogging about her writer life, but she also has interviews and stuff like that. Go check her out. And
I've been on that one too.
Of course you are. She's never not on the podcast. She's on every podcast. World Maker Books, which is Mark and Joy Wandry, where they have been doing audio reads of some of Mark Wandry's earlier books. So you get a free audio book. And so go check those out. And I always forget to say this, but I'm going to remember now. If you're watching this and you have not subscribed, please go subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. I don't care. Tell everybody to subscribe for the channel. And we put something out just about every week. But it's a great way to find out about some of your favorite authors, book launches, things like that. What's up, boss?
So I just checked. We Dare, Old Age and Treachery is sitting at number 2 in new release science fiction anthologies.
And it's sitting at number 3 in action adventure and number 3 in colonization. We're kicking butt.
There it is. There it is, people. The link is in. Yeah, the link is in the show notes. Show nuts. That's like salvage anal.
That's it. That's permanent now. Oh my God, that's permanent on this channel. We're gonna check the show notes right now.
Show
Turn your head and
nuts.
cough.
All right.
Turn your head and cough. We're checking the show nuts.
Now you're not alone, Melissa. I have done it as well.
Right?
Show nuts.
Right? It's so easy.
Jamie's been giving
All right.
Melissa shit all night, and now it's
Yeah.
his turn.
Now it's my turn.
Does Chris know he's sponsoring the show nuts? Because I don't know that he.
So
I love karma.
go to the show notes and find the link to the book.
Salty.
And
They're a little extra hairy today. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God.
You gotta take care of your show notes, boys. Okay,
Yes.
take care of them.
yeah. All right. Well, I want to say thank you.
At least
to
that came right at the end of the show. So some people might have tuned out when we hit the advertising. They're like, "Oh, they're done." Oh, we're not done.
It's
No,
fine.
we're not
It's fine. Everything's fine.
And we're rolling right into last call. That's where we're going.
Yes, it is Angel. Thank you, Oz.
So the end of the show is very much what the Cantina is like. Their Zoom call on Saturdays where they just talk a lot of shit. So too bad y'all can't. We give y'all a little taste of this, but that's private. So so thank you guys for coming on. Congratulations.
Thanks for having us. And thanks,
Yeah.
Jamie, for setting it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
This has
you.
been great. Anytime y'all want to come back on, y'all are more than welcome for if you want to promote stuff. I'm happy to have you. Oh, what's up? So, Jamie?
Team and more. So just I totally forgot. I completely gapped out. Team and more.
Yeah.
Right? We've got merch. I've got Team and More stuff set up on TeePublic, but we've actually got a Team and More website now. Team and More is an anthology specific thing where people who are a big deal like Kevin Steverson get their name on the cover, and then other people who perhaps are not quite as established on the cover. It's like featuring stories from
more.
Kevin and Paul and a couple other guys, and more at the bottom, and so over in the North Texas Troublemakers, who like Law Dog's in there, and a bunch of the MHI guys are in there. Somebody went and created a Team and More website, and I found out that they had done so when they were sharing the patch that I designed. And so we've decided to go all in on it. And so we've got patches, we've got swag, we've got shirts, we've got all kinds of stuff. And then we're actually going to look at getting rockers for people who've been promoted to the front cover, like Kevin. Something that's going to be like emeritus or honorary Team and More or something like that. So I completely gapped out, but yeah, Team and More is a thing.
I love it.
And I should have mentioned it like an hour ago, but here we are.
You got there in the end, Jamie.
Yeah, right. I'm glad you stayed and didn't tune out earlier.
He's going to put it as part of the show notes, and Agent Oz is telling Agent Johnson about it. So here we go.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Oz. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Oz.
Fist bump.
Well, speaking of show notes, send me the link and I'll put the link in the show notes.
Agent Johnson, listen, there needs to be a page in a book where it's all redacted, and at the bottom it says Agent Johnson, where he's given his introduction or his comments on it, and that's all that's there. All redacted, Agent Johnson.
human.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this sucks because we're having a lot of fun right now. But it's
Yeah,
the end
now
of-
we're like good, and we got to.
Because we're done talking about like the stuff. Now we're just being goofballs.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Congratulations. And Jamie, send me the link, and I'll put it in the notes. And
I certainly will.
And thanks. And again, any of y'all, anytime y'all have anything to promote, please come on or sign up for any of our. We're gonna have more panel type shows, kind of like this, where we just kind of pick topics and talk about it. We're still doing gonna do book launches and stuff like this, but the panel shows like this tend to be a little bit more fun. So we're gonna have more of those where we just kind of pick topics and talk shit. All right. So, guys, y'all been great. Thank y'all. And to our audience, thank you for watching now and in the future. And with that, we will see you guys next time. Bye.
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 And then